Oh, great. Okay. Okay, it is 8:30 and I will go ahead and call the Planning and Economic Development meeting to order on this Wednesday, November 12th. We'll start with approval of the minutes from the October 8th meeting. Councilmember Gardner, are you good with those?
Yep, they look good to me.
Okay, and then do we have Councilmember Jurinsky on? No, don't think so. Okay, well, I also approve the minutes, so we'll do that and move on to our first item of business, which is the amendment to the Aurora Places comp plan. And that is going to be, is it Daniel? Are you presenting?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Good morning, committee members and others. My name is Daniel Krasnowski. I'm a supervisor with the Long Range Planning Division. This morning's presentation, I'll be sharing with representatives from Aurora Water. And the topic is an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan to amend the planning and annexation boundary. Before I turn it over to Aurora Water on the why the amendment now, I did want to sort of review just very briefly what the planning and annexation boundary is. It's not something that comes before the committee or council too often. So in terms of a refresher, the planning and annexation boundary, or PAB, is a planning tool that the city uses to identify areas outside of the current city limits that may be annexed into the city in the future. This sort of long-term plan for growth and development is really critical to the city planning for and anticipating its public service needs, especially those infrastructure items like transportation, utilities, those things that are very expensive that really require quite a bit of planning, long-term planning to deploy. And so this is a tool that the city uses to help guide that. The other important thing to note is that only properties that fall within this planning annexation boundary can submit an application for annexation into the city. Council reviews these on a case-by-case basis and makes a decision based on the merits and the process for each individual property, but it basically just makes you eligible to approach the city and for consideration. And this boundary is really enshrined within the comprehensive plan, hence why this would be a comprehensive plan amendment to change this. Just by way of sort of history, the last time we amended this was 2022. Previous to that, there was a pretty large expansion of this in 2016. So hopefully that kind of gives a sense of what we're talking about. So at this point, I'll turn it over to representatives from Aurora Water to provide some more context into what and why.
Good morning. My name, for the record, is Alexandra Davis. I know most of you here. Good morning, Councilmember Bergan, Councilmember Gardner. Thank you for giving us your time this morning. As you know, let's see if this is going to work. There we go. As you know, Aurora has a very diverse water supply system, which started in the 1950s when the city decided to create its own water supply system, and the council at that time said, make it diverse, make it robust. We get water from the upper Colorado River. We get water from the upper Arkansas basin and the lower Arkansas basin. All of these supplies, these mountain and plain supplies, are then brought over through the Otero pump station and the Otero pipeline into the upper South Platte basin, where, I guess I was pointing at the South Platte, where the water is brought to Spinney Reservoir, and we also yield water rights from the upper South Platte. And we have water supplies in the lower South Platte, which come up through the Brighton, through the North Campus and the Prairie Waters project. The water department, in order to maintain these supplies and look forward, does a lot of planning, and I wanted to show you a couple of the tools that we use. So we track our supply daily. And people look at these charts daily, weekly, monthly to understand where our supply is. The interesting thing about this storage supply with all the colored lines, I'm not sure if you can see my pointer.
Yes, we
This,
can.
oh, thank you. This demonstrates the reliance that we have, that everyone in Colorado has, on snowpack. So snowpack is is considered Colorado's largest reservoir. You all know it snows in the winter, and you can see that when the snow starts to melt, that's when our storage goes way up. That's when we yield, most of our water rights yield in the spring and early summer months when the snow is melting. And then we peak in late June to late July is when our peak storage ends. And then you can see we start taking water out to supply the needs. So the snowpack is extremely important to our senior water rights. And we track this storage every day, all year. Some of the other information that we look at on a regular basis are mostly from the USGS. We have a drought monitor that we watch regularly. This one is from October 7th, and you can see that things were in extreme drought in some areas of the state. Aurora was not looking too bad, but it was a little dry. And these conditions will change regularly. And what's important about drought is it's drying out the soil. So it's increasing the need for water. So water supply will be soaked up more by the earth, because as things get really dry, the soil dries out, the trees dry out, and all of the vegetation needs more water. And for example, the Colorado River had a very high snowpack one year, and it was very high, but half of what would normally have gotten to Powell actually made it to Lake Powell because the earth was so dry due to drought and warming. You can see the seasonal precipitation outlook, which we also follow, shows that Colorado and Aurora will be below average, below what's considered normal, what's looked at as normal. So it's going to be dry this fall, for example. And then we look at the temperature outlook, and you can see that Colorado is going to be above normal in temperature through December. So it's going to be hot and dry this year, as it was last year and the year before. We also use this drought outlook, and this is a forecast that looks out several months to see where drought might be persistent, or where it might be developing, or where it might be getting worse. And you can see that the Colorado River Basin is in significant and persisting drought. So supplies are looking tough this year. So we look at that data on a short-term basis, and we're looking at it all the time. That's relatively near-term data that helps us plan for the spring. We also look in Aurora Water, we also look long-term, and we do a lot of work to understand what does the long-term future look like in terms of water and water supply for our citizens. So we have the integrated water master plan that the department does every 5 years, and it looks at our projected water future demands. This map shows you what is not the areas that in red are not planned to be served by the city. There is an area down here that should be red, and so I apologize that this area is not included in red, but you'll see it on the map that I show you later. So all of the areas in red are currently served by other water providers. One of our concerns is that some of these areas are served by water providers who are on non-tributary groundwater, which means they may run into problems later. The green is, so the gray is our service area where we are already providing service. The green is future growth within city limits. So these are areas that are not yet developed. And the yellow is is land within the planning area boundary that could be annexed into the city. So when we look at the future and in our integrated master plan, we include these areas not to be served. So we don't include that demand from those areas. We include aggressive conservation. You, Councilmember Bergan and Councilmember Gardner, have been very supportive of our conservation efforts, which are super important. And so we include that future conservation. And we also include the non-functional turf ban, which was, the standard setting. It was so innovative for you all to support this non-functional turf ban. And we include the lack of that turf in our future demands. We can see here, in 2020, our demand was 93-ish thousand acre feet. This is the water that's needed to get approximately 55,000 acre feet to our treatment system. So the city uses approximately 55-ish thousand acre feet annually at the moment, but we need 93,000-ish to get that much water to the treatment plant. So that includes the water delivered to the customers. It includes the losses in the treatment, transmission, and distribution systems. It includes our raw water systems, our raw water irrigation. It includes our contractual commitments like WISE and Roxborough and Dominion. And it includes the evaporation and the stream losses that I mentioned earlier. And these losses in 2012 were approximately 10% of our supply we would lose to the river and to evapotranspiration and to evaporation from the reservoir. Because of warming, that is now almost double, and we expect it to increase. So looking at our future supply, this is under average hydrologic conditions. You can see the black line is estimated demand. We do have some leases, so in the 2030s, our demand will drop because we have leases that we will expire. The blue speckled is existing prairie water supply. The orange speckled is the growing prairie water supply because we are building that out to its full capacity. And the orange here are all the projects that we have planned that we intend to accomplish in order to make sure that we have the supply necessary. You can see the light blue here is our existing supply, and it is estimated to decrease because of warming and because we have supplies that we lease from other entities, and those leases will expire. So we're concerned about the decrease in future supply, and these projects, while planned and while we are working diligently towards getting there, they're not certain, but we're trying to make this happen. In great part, thanks to super supportive council members, we being the Aurora Water Department, has been extremely innovative and just doing everything that we can think of to ensure a proper water supply for our citizens. So Prairie Waters Project, you are all very familiar with. The London Mine, you are probably familiar with, which was an acquisition that nobody else wanted to touch because of potential environmental liability. We spent years crafting documents and contracts to prevent that environmental liability from falling on the city. The turf ordinance, our partnership with the farm, the acquisition of the farm in the lower Arkansas, which will allow us to access about 7,500 acre feet every 3 years out of 10. And then direct potable reuse, which is a big deal. We will be probably the first city in the state of Colorado to implement direct potable reuse. And this large water user guide, which you council members recently approved, which is going to be very important to ensure that large commercial and industrial users who want to come to Aurora do not come in with demands that we cannot meet. And then our very progressive volumetric fee and structure in our allocations, which really incentivize decreased use and being very, and having a high level of stewardship with this very critical resource. So water supply opportunities are shrinking, unfortunately. It's becoming much harder to acquire new water supply. The mountain supplies that we talked about earlier are pretty much done. There might be a little bit left. There is a little bit left in the Arkansas that we are working to acquire right now. So under various agreements, we can access 10,000 acre feet every 3 years out of 10. And the Arkansas farm that we bought 2 years ago is 7,500 acre feet. And we are working with a couple of farmers right now to acquire that additional 2,500 acre feet-ish. And then we basically will be not have any more access of supplies in the Arkansas River. The Colorado River, we have one project that we are still keeping alive there. As you know, if you've been able to read any of the news on the Colorado River, it is in crisis at the moment. And what we're concerned about and involved in several processes quite aggressively to protect our existing water, but we are concerned that our existing water supplies from the Colorado may be somewhat at risk because of the crisis going on in the Colorado River. The Upper South Platte, there are really no more water rights to acquire. We've acquired everything we can, and other entities have acquired the rest. So the Upper South Platte is tapped out, which means the remaining opportunities are the Lower South Platte water supplies. And we are very aggressive in terms of accomplishing what we can in the Lower South Platte. One of the problems with the Lower South Platte is that there is a lot of competition from other communities that are in the same boat as Aurora, where they're growing and they don't have all the water they need for the future. There's a lot of competition. There's entities who don't want to see water leaving their area. And it's a lower quality water that we have to pump back upstream to Aurora. So it's more complicated. It's vastly more expensive. It's lower quality, and it's becoming more and more difficult to acquire water rights. But we are focused there. Our Lower South Platte Master Plan looked at a number of alternatives for how we could acquire the most water from the Lower South Platte. Portfolio E was the most complicated. So there were 5 portfolios, A through E, that built on each other. And Portfolio E was the most inclusive. Everything we could think of that we could possibly add some semblance to reality, we put in Portfolio E. But Portfolio E is aspirational. And if we can accomplish it all, we will be very proud of ourselves. And it is also very expensive. So we're looking at $1.5 to $3 billion to acquire the water that we would need and then be able to move that water upstream to the city, to our treatment plants. You can see in our 20-year capital improvement plan, the most expensive part of that improvement plan has to do with water resources. That's the water supply and the infrastructure needed to access that water supply. Conservation is going to be very important. It has always been important to the city and to the council, and everyone understands the need for conservation. One of the pieces that has been highlighted for us recently is this idea that we need 93,000 acre feet to provide 55,000 acre feet. So that's a 2-for-1 ratio. So we need 2 acre feet.
Sorry.
For every 1 acre foot that we supply.
Thank you.
And but if we can conserve that water, as the river supplies shrink, we will need another 20-ish thousand acre feet of water. But if we can conserve 8,000 acre feet, that equates to conserving 16,000 acre feet. It's because of the 2-for-1 supply. So conservation for existing customers is going to become more and more important going forward. And there's wonderfully beautiful ways to do that, to minimize outdoor irrigation. And this council has been very supportive, and we will need that support going forward. But all of this is to say that we have come up with several policy recommendations for council. The one that is relevant to the Planning and Economic Development Committee is regarding the planning area boundary. And we are asking that the planning area boundary be strategically trimmed to reduce the amount of land that could be developed in the future. So right now, as Daniel explained, in land in the planning area boundary can be annexed. And we're concerned that it creates an expectation of service that we will not be able to meet. If the full area within the planning area boundary as it's currently structured is developed, we will not have enough water to meet all of the demands that would be created. And we're very concerned about that expectation turning into lawsuits or people demanding water that we cannot supply. You can see here, and I think Councilmember Gardner, you were particularly interested in this area up here. This is owned by Denver. A good deal of this land is owned by Denver. There is a piece of this property that we are keeping within the planning area boundary. This conversation about how the boundary should be trimmed was a conversation that Water started with all the other departments in the city, ODA and planning. So we've had a lot of help in creating this map from other city departments to make sure that we are all on the same page with what this map should look like and the best way to go forward. So with that, I will take any questions.
Okay. Councilmember Gardner, do you have any questions?
No questions, as Alex alluded to. I met with Marshall on this and asked the questions that I had at the time.
Okay, thank you. Could you bring back that map, please? Thank
If I
you.
could, I'm happy to put it up. There's an updated version to this.
Okay.
Alex, I'm happy to put that on my screen.
Oh,
We made
thank you.
a few final tweaks since this was
Okay.
done that may help in your questions.
Thank
Oh,
you,
yeah.
Daniel, because this one shows the adjustment up on that northern area that
Okay.
that was made. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. So my question is down in the southern area by the Aurora Reservoir. I think on an earlier slide, it was mentioned that that was not to be developed, but yet it's still in our boundary. So is that developable land? All that whole big gray box that's basically east of the reservoir.
That property is the Lowry Ranch State Land Board property. It's long been identified by the city as an area for open space conservation. It's not been anticipated for any sort of residential or commercial development. So while it's in the boundary, the comprehensive plan does identify it as a sort of a long-term open space natural area, which wouldn't have the type of utility demands that development would.
So that entire gray area, we're definitely for sure it's either going to be Lowry or conservation land, because I know I have neighborhoods that are in the Douglas County part of the city that have requested water. We've made agreements with them. Just wondering how much more residential could be developed down there. So
the area east of the reservoir and south of Quincy Avenue is that area designated for sort of long-term open space conservation. There are portions north of Quincy Avenue that are anticipated for residential growth. And obviously small areas sort of throughout some of those sort of enclave and sort of donut holes in there are anticipated for development.
okay, so I guess my question is, if most of that is not developable, why don't we just shrink the boundary?
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Marshall.
sorry, I was going to say that's a great question, and we went back and forth on that a little bit. The reason we chose to leave it in our planning area boundary was because the state land board currently has that conservation easement on top of all that property. And by leaving it in our boundary, we can continue to communicate with the state land board that, yes, this is in our planning area boundary. We are supportive of the conservation easement remaining, and we are not planning to provide water to that area. We've had, you're probably a little bit familiar with Rangeview, which is a water district out to the east. They've petitioned the state a couple of times to remove that from the plant, from the conservation easement so that
Oh.
it can develop.
Oh, I see.
And we, by leaving it in our planning area boundary, have been able to historically, a few times already, work with Arapahoe County in support of leaving it in the conservation easement. And we thought that leaving it in our planning area boundary gave us a little more strength and position to be able to preserve that.
Yeah, okay, great. That makes total sense. So I appreciate the explanation. Okay. That's all I had. So I thank you
If
very
there's- if there's-
much.
yeah,
I
there's
know there's an
nothing else.
ask.
Yeah, the ask is if the committee wants us to move forward through the formal adoption process of this amendment, that is bringing it forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a recommendation and public hearing, and then to council for a public hearing and 2 readings of the ordinance.
I'm fine moving it forward. Councilmember Gardner.
Fine with me.
Sorry.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great
Right,
morning.
thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item. And that is the housing UDO update.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. I should only need maybe 5 or 6 minutes for this presentation. My name is Brandon Camerata. I'm a manager in the current planning division, also the project manager for this project. The punchline for this brief presentation is that we're working full on in developing code in hopes of being able to roll out some initial drafts mid-December before Christmas. So I'll jump right in. I know we have a full agenda today. So I know this committee is very familiar with this project, but for those listening in, a little bit of background on this project. So small lots, compact housing. I'll go back to 2019 when the city amended the zoning code known as the UDO. And a main addition to the UDO at that time was enabling a variety of new small lot compact housing options. These include things like green courts, motor courts, a variety of townhome configurations. And I would say these options have been largely used to the maximum extent permitted by code over the last 5 years. And so by maximum extent, what that entails is these types of small lots have only been permitted in the eastern portion of the city along E470 subarea C. And then also within that area, they've been limited to a certain percentage of overall development. So with that said, the market has shown continued interest in pursuing small lots, one in other parts of the community besides the eastern part. And then within the eastern part, looking at larger percentages of those small lots. So that's a big part of the genesis of this project. Also, the idea of supporting the market being able to provide more price points, more options for housing products, which can assist in some attainability goals as well. So we've been working on this project since late spring. We've been meeting with this committee every month with updates and other discussions. We've had listening sessions and engagement with the development community over the summer and fall. We've also conducted a code audit to make sure we know all of the levers that we can influence with this project. And then more recently, we had a substantive discussion with this committee back in October, and that same discussion about 10 days ago with the full city council at a study session, and I'll get to that in a moment. So here's kind of what we heard over the course of the summer from the development community, things like that, looking at better options for infill, simplifying certain pieces of the code, looking at some of the design standards, building materials, masonry, Is there any flexibility for parking configuration, things like that? And so as we had all those discussions, had the discussions with this committee, PED, we've started to talk about this amendment in three main categories. Greenfield, which is the largely undeveloped areas out east. Infill, the areas to the west on either side of 225 corridor. And then design standards. And so that relates to things like we've talked about the masonry requirement, we've talked about parking configuration, and there's some others there as well. And as we talk about all these things, we're also looking at our existing livability principles that are built into code, which are there to support new neighborhoods and infill situations to make sure they're building quality neighborhoods, sustainable, adaptable neighborhoods. So we're looking at all those things as we continue to move forward. And so this is basically the discussions we had with PED and the full council over the last month. And we outlined some of our preliminary directions relating to greenfield, infill, and design standards. And we got general affirmation of continuing to work on those things, and also some additional good feedback and guidance for us to focus on moving forward. And that's really where we are right now, is working really hard at developing code for a initial rollout in mid-December. We're looking to get a third developer roundtable mid-December. And, you know, I think we'll be working with Chair Bergan, who's also the sponsor of this bill, to discuss what's the best ways to get this out to City Council over the next few weeks. And so also coordinating with management in that regard. So that's where we are right now, also working to produce some of those visual and informational pieces to help communicate on this as well. So that's where we are. If there's any questions, I would try to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Brandon. Councilmember Gardner, do you have any questions?
No, I don't think I have any questions right now.
Okay, obviously this did go to council. I think there were some questions asked at that time. And I am interested, I know you said you're going to provide some visuals. I think that's very helpful for us to be able to see what those configurations look like. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is this SBDC update.
Thank you. Just going to share my screen here. There we go. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ashvina Patel, Executive Director of Colorado SBDC serving Aurora South Metro. Thank you for the opportunity to share an update on our SBDC Center, what we've accomplished this year, and how we're aligning with the city's retail growth strategy for 2026 and beyond. Our mission at the SBDC remains simple. It's to empower Aurora small businesses to start, grow, and thrive. I know that we don't meet often like this, so I want to take this opportunity to remind everyone of our unique relationship and how we're organized. In simple terms, the SBA, or the Small Business Administration, is the federal agency that oversees and partially funds the small business development centers across Colorado. So SBDCs are usually hosted by universities, state economic development agencies, chambers of commerce, or cities. Our SBDC is fortunately hosted by the city of Aurora. The SBA provides oversight, training standards, and about half of the funding, while the other half comes from the host institutions and other sponsors. Our state has 14 centers coordinated and led by our Office of Economic Development and International Trade. So you can think of the SBA as the parent agency and SBDCs as a network of local delivery partners. We're grounded in the community, but tied into a national system of expertise and resources that help to guide small businesses. And at our core, we focus on 3 pillars: advising, training, and resources. Through our programs, outreach, and partnerships, we guide entrepreneurs via no-cost, one-on-one confidential advising. Through training, we equip them with practical skills. At our center specifically, we have 1-hour courses as well as cohort-based series, so businesses can learn from and support one another. And we also connect entrepreneurs to the network and tools they need to succeed. This may be city resources like planning and zoning, tax and licensing, or other local businesses like CPAs and lawyers. And since COVID, the way we connect with business owners has changed. We offer advising in person at one of our 3 offices, and we also meet with them online. Our trainings are offered in person and online, and this year we began offering our training in person and in a hybrid format. And this easily and instantly increased our enrollment by 100%. We're really trying to meet business owners where they're at and provide them with the type of vehicle that they need in order to continue to learn and better their businesses. And I would be remiss if I didn't introduce you to the team that makes it all happen. At our center, I've proudly served as the executive director for 10 short months, but we also have 2 associate directors who both started out as small business advisors. We have 1 small business advisor who specializes in financials for small businesses, and a program coordinator and admin specialist who keep all the gears turning as they do. Additionally, we have 5 independent advisors who specialize in various areas, including retail centers or digital marketing. We use independent advisors for businesses like medical services or IT, for which our team might not have the specialized expertise. In 2024, specifically in Aurora, our center advised 995 clients, delivering one-on-one support. These efforts directly contributed to more than $4 million in increased sales for local businesses. We helped them create 216 jobs, and we assisted our clients in gaining over $5 million in capital, whether that's through grants, loans, credit lines, and so forth. On the training side, we welcomed 793 attendees across workshops, courses, and cohort-based series. And we also helped 29 businesses register and get started. So for me, what these numbers show is the strength of our model, right? Tailored advising, practical training, and deep connections to the local and state resources. And each of these numbers represents local entrepreneurs whose success strengthens Aurora's economic vitality. We've seen real results from Aurora entrepreneurs. Just a couple of testimonials here. Achieve Sports secured $150,000 in commercial loans through SBDC referrals and created 2 new jobs while retaining existing ones. They also completed our employee ownership module, setting them up for long-term sustainability. Bones for Buds, a small dog-centric retail business, opened its first brick-and-mortar location at the Stanley Marketplace. With SBDC support on business planning, financial management, and lease negotiations, they earned the 2025 Aurora BAB Award for Small Business. And these stories demonstrate how that one-on-one advising and local partnership directly translate into growth and recognition of Aurora business. At the SBDC, we have specialized programs and training. Beyond the one-on-one advising, we offer targeted programs that address evolving business challenges. And luckily, we are part of a statewide network that allows Aurora business owners to take advantage of competitive programs at low to no cost. So TechSource connects science and tech ventures with non-dilutive funding like the SBIR grants and R&D tax credits. Disaster recovery and continuity helps businesses prepare for and recover from disruptions from wildfires to supply chain interruptions and even those pesky pandemics. And we have exit planning for businesses. So we want to ensure businesses have continuity and prepare owners for transitions such as sales or employee ownership. Digital marketing and social media training helps entrepreneurs strengthen their online presence, drive sales, and manage reputation, all critical in today's retail environment. In Aurora, we also include and continue to expand Spanish language business support, ensuring inclusion and accessibility for all Aurora entrepreneurs. We run training programs for Aurora businesses to help local entrepreneurs navigate city-specific regulations, connect them with nearby resources and partners, build resistant businesses that reflect and serve the unique needs of our diverse community. So, for example, the Community Business Preservation Program. Through this partnership with OEDIT, 6 struggling Aurora businesses received $30,000 each in direct assistance, along with SBDC advising. The goal wasn't just to keep the doors open, but to preserve the character and diversity that makes Aurora business community so unique. We were partnering with the World Trade Center in Denver. We continue with this partnership. We trained local businesses to manage tariff shifts, supply chain issues, and compliance requirements. We also worked with them in more advising one-on-one sessions with pricing strategies for their businesses. This work this year has been critical for Aurora businesses engaged in import-export. Most of them are in some capacity, whether it's a mix of domestic and international. We're trying to help them stay competitive despite some of the global volatility. In October, our 3-part series on commercial real estate brought together brokers, city representatives, lawyers, and landlords to help business owners make informed leasing or buying decisions. Participants walked away with financial planning tools, red flag awareness, and ongoing multilingual support, giving them more confidence to expand locally. This was very successful, and we hope to bring it into 2026 and partner more with BAB to make sure that we're really making sure that we're reaching a wide swath of business communities. Our Feeding Anchors program, in collaboration with Center City Wealth and Rocky Mountain Financial Microfinance, we supported 15 local caterers in licensing, pricing, contracts, and presentation, helping them compete for large institutional clients and event opportunities. And we continue to work with small business through city partnerships like the construction along Colfax and new redistricting. Looking ahead to 2026, we're expanding support for childcare entrepreneurs across all 64 counties. This is something that we've been doing for years and will continue to do. It is a necessary business support, and SBDC is happy to provide that service. And then new this coming year, we will have the State Small Business Credit Initiative, the SSBCI. This represents a significant opportunity for business owners. This program directly funds legal, accounting, and financial advising services to help entrepreneurs access capital. It's about accessing capital, which is something that's very challenging for businesses, as many of the grants and loan programs that were spurred that COVID brought about are going away. It's designed to advance equity, prioritize very small and disadvantaged businesses, and through this initiative, more Aurora business owners can access the tools and funding they need to thrive. And then looking ahead, we're excited to launch 2 new programs tailored for aspiring entrepreneurs. Fired Up, I Want to Start a Business, for those exploring new ideas. We've always offered this, but we're revisioning it to ensure that we're staying up to speed with some of the local and federal guidelines. Interested in acquiring an existing business. The I Want to Buy a Business is an initiative that addresses what's been called the silver tsunami, essentially baby boomers retiring. We want to make sure that we're helping them transition their businesses so there is economic continuity and vitality over time. And then lastly, SBDC is housed at the city under the Planning and Business Development Department. So we are very excited to be able to be a part of the city's retail strategy. Our shared goal is to strengthen Aurora's retail ecosystem by helping high-performing small businesses become the city's next anchor retailers. So together, we will identify businesses in each ward generating more than 50,000 in annual sales tax revenue, engage those owners in conversations about sustainable growth and market expansion, advise them on next level business maturity, covering strategy, operations, workforce readiness, digital presence, whatever it is that they need. Analyze this data to guide citywide retail priorities and investment decisions. This creates a structured, data-driven approach to Aurora's strongest local retailers into long-term economic anchors. We do a lot of work with business starts, but we want to make sure that we're also addressing those that are existing and might need some assistance in getting to that next level. So in summary, the SBDC continues to be a trusted partner in Aurora's economic ecosystem, helping entrepreneurs start, scale, and adapt in a changing economy. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions, Councilmember Gardner?
No questions, but appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, very great presentation for us. My only question is just in terms of marketing your services. I don't know if you have an office in Southeast Aurora, because I don't know if a lot of the businesses actually utilize your service. So just if you could briefly tell me how you market.
Yeah, so we market we have newsletters, we have statewide marketing as well. We like to get out there. The ways that city council members can really help us is invite us to your town halls. We'd love to come and give a presentation. And so people know that we're around. We have an online presence. We're on all of the social media. We try and promote as much as possible, but we'd love to be able to get in at the ward level and really be able to get in front of small businesses.
Okay, great. The newsletters, do they go to individual businesses or do they go to the main?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
brokers.
great question. They go to anyone who has received advising from us, so they can continue with their own professional development and attend our events. We share anything that's going on with chambers of commerce and other business partners. They go out to business partners as well as members of the city. So if you see that QR code that says follow us, that one is for our newsletter. So please do sign up. We also have a newsletter that goes out to our advisors. We just developed that this year so they can continue with their own professional development and say, okay, these are the things that I need to learn in order to advise the business owners in Aurora.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate all the work
absolutely.
that you do, and I look forward to the kind of collaboration with the retail team as well. So thank you.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
and we'll move on to the retail strategy now.
Chair Bergan, Janine Rustad, Director of Planning and Business Development. If I may, with your indulgence, because the retail strategy is a partnership with all our business divisions, I would like to introduce Robin Fleischman. She is our new, I think with 2 months under her belt, manager of urban renewal and redevelopment. We are lucky to have her most recently from the city of Golden. She's bringing a wealth of experience in urban renewal in downtown development authorities and helping businesses grow. So Robin, if you want to take a quick minute to introduce yourself.
Hello, council members. Everyone, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's been a great 2 months working with the planning business development team, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Please let me know how I can help, or happy to answer any questions you might have.
Welcome.
And with that, I am going to jump in. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So again, Janine Rustad, the Director of Planning and Business Development. Let me just... Challenge is always how to advance slides, so bear with me. Today, I want to give a brief, quick overview of the retail strategy. This is similar to what we introduced earlier this year, but it's a good reminder in framing existing retail incentives, and how we want to potentially revamp those existing and then propose new incentives and then go over our next steps. So the retail strategy goals. Our goals are to strengthen and reactivate existing retail centers. We do play a small role. I'll go over that shortly. We want to improve the appearance, safety, and walkability of our commercial areas. We want Aurora to be an attractive place to shop, hopefully attracting people from outside the city as well as serving those within the city. We want to promote a balanced tenant mix that increases the convenience and community identity. We want to be that one-stop shopping. And then we want to encourage frequent visits through coordinated events and customer-oriented services. Bear with me here. I want to get my notes in front of me. I will admit to cheating every now and then. So the city's role in retail. We do not operate shopping centers, but we do partner very closely with them. We also have a role in maintaining the public realm, the sidewalks, the streets, the lighting, access, and safety. We facilitate communication and coordination amongst property owners, tenants. If you recall, when I gave this presentation earlier in the year, I like to say that we're a bit of a matchmaker. We ensure clear, predictable, and timely development processes. You just heard from Ashvina that we do help tenants and landlords through the development processes in coordination with our partners at the Office of Development Assistance. We provide access to business resources. Again, a lot of that is the small business counseling and trainings offered by the SBDC team. And then we support the visibility of retail areas through information sharing. An exciting opportunity coming up, of course, will be the recently approved Colfax Downtown Development Authority, which we will be a partner in. So again, there are certain health indicators of retail centers, and these are what we hope to influence through our retail strategy. It's price per square foot, occupancy rate, and occupancy rate, we want to maximize the amount of retail tax generating occupancy, the center appearance, retail mix, tenant mix, and of course, anchor tenants. As we talk about incentives, it's important to note the differences in the types of centers throughout Aurora. We have our primary centers. These are in good condition with low vacancies and strong anchors. This results in high sales tax or sales per square foot. They're modern and clean. Shadow areas are typically within close proximity to primary centers or within a close proximity to a strong anchor. Think a freestanding Home Depot. They themselves don't have a major anchor, but they do benefit from the foot traffic of the nearby primary centers. We then have micro centers. These are similar to shadow areas, but they don't have that proximity to micro center or to a primary center. They often have a niche location within retail, with retail that's targeted to the surrounding community. We do see some of this along Colfax with specialty grocers targeted to the diverse communities. And then secondary centers. These have no strong anchors. They're usually in deteriorating condition, and they're an area where we are focusing a lot of the retail strategy. So vitality. Retail is shaped by both online shopping and shorter business and planning cycles, which makes long-term leasing and large spaces harder to fill. We've seen this throughout Aurora with big boxes going away and those spaces oftentimes being carved up into smaller spaces. Additionally, many older centers need reinvestment to stay competitive. Things like lighting, signage, and layout may need some revisiting. The tenant mixes also matter. Customers want that convenience place to shop in one place, that one-stop shopping. And finally, perceptions of safety and the condition of the public realm affect whether people feel comfortable visiting. Our strategy focuses on strengthening these conditions so private investment can occur. So currently we have two programs. The restaurant program, which was funded through ARPA funds, which have expired, helped establish businesses in every ward except for Ward 2, unfortunately. We are still working to get business within Ward 2, our growing ward. And then retail development. This is the primary anchor incentive that through Bergan, your leadership, we got Nordstrom Rack and Lucky Strike. Diving into that major retail redevelopment or anchor incentive, this supports large-scale investment. It's targeted for vacancies over 10,000 square feet and 50% of an ownership center. There's 2 tiers and the term is up to 10 years. What we have found with this incentive is on the city side, it is very challenging. The formulas are cumbersome. We are looking at taxes on a monthly basis, so it's taking a very large amount of staff time. And also, it doesn't necessarily result in a rebate to the property owner. And this is, again, in large part because big boxes are becoming harder to fill. And when some of those go out, the tax base actually may lower in the center, while a store like Nordstrom Rack is being very successful. So we need to think about how we incentivize and what we're incentivizing. So we would like to shift away from monthly calculations to quarterly, simplify the incentive formula to make the program more transparent and easier to understand. We're having a lot of conversations right now with Wilco, the owner of the Center for Nordstrom Rack, about how this is actually operating. And then we want to base the tax rebate on increment generated in that tenant space rather than the entire shopping center, because retail is ever changing. And if you recall in January, one of the things that I said as a city role is remaining flexible to adapt to changing times. So we would like to explore these to remain flexible, adaptable, and really serve the purpose of the incentive. Another incentive we are thinking of, or a new program, is to encourage reinvestment in smaller centers. So centers that may not have that 10,000 square foot space, but we still want to see reinvestment and re-tenanting with retail sales tax producing that will have an impact on the neighborhood and even a larger area. So we want to expand that primary retail reinvestment incentive to smaller mid-sized retail centers. This is intended to target persistent small storefront vacancies or outdated tenant mixes, and then support re-tenanting, subdivision, or moderate interior-exterior reinvestment. An example where this might be of use is where we've seen in Ward 5, some of the large big box going away, where they're demising a large space may be able to get 2 very strong retail tax supported generating, businesses. Given the smaller scale, and leases are typically 5 years with options to renew, the term that we are talking about internally and would like to talk about with retailers and property owners is a shorter, so that first initial term of the lease. We also have centers that have very large vacancies and/or the landlord is basically getting any tenant they can, so they may have a large percentage of non-retail sales tax producing. These tend to lead to higher disinvestment. What we would like to do is encourage reactivation of these storefronts help incentivize getting those retail sales tax generating and getting a better tenant mix. While some of these non-sales tax generating doctor's office, nail salons, and the like are important for a mix, we want to make sure we continue with a healthy tenant mix. Again, we would be looking at a shorter term of the incentive. And then finally, retail safety and security. This could either be an incentive and or a grant. When I first joined the city approximately 4 years ago, we did have safety and security grants. These help address both the perceived and actual safety of a center. It can result in, with safety improvements, increased foot traffic. We would look at things like lighting upgrades. We've worked very closely with our licensing department on CPTED, or crime prevention through environmental design. And this has shown great promise, again, along the Colfax corridor. And we want to make sure we have this available throughout the city. We've also used this in Ward 4 near Blackhawk with success. So this would be a cost sharing model through grants or limited partial rebates. This is a chart showing those initial incentives. I would like to say that these are just the tip of the iceberg of what we are looking at for the retail strategy. We are also looking at targeted redevelopment, what centers might be appropriate for urban renewal, part of why I introduced Robin to you, because she is part of that conversation with us. So our next steps, the retail strategy, good news is it is almost complete. What we would like to do once we complete that draft is have very targeted stakeholder engagement. This would start in January 2026. We don't want to start it at this time of year because retailers are very focused on the holiday shopping season. Was listening to the radio on the ramp up of retailers hiring their temporary workers in advance of the traditional Black Friday, which seems to start earlier and earlier every year. I'm already getting the email blasts for those. We want to refine these incentives, but we want to do that in conversation with retailers. And property owners. What is going to be impactful for them? Because while we can think of things, we no longer work in this world every day. So we want to get our local experts informing what those incentives and programs should look like. We would then like to bring forward incentives and policy programs to council in the first quarter of 2026. The good news is we are already implementing some of the things, such as talking to property owners and trying to get reinvestment. We right now have more of a stick. We have code enforcement that can go in when we get the very helpful calls from council members, community members, but we now want more of the carrots to say, okay, we're going to hold those violations in abeyance, but here's what we want you to do. We are already doing a lot of that work and having some success, but this will strengthen us. So the question for council is, do you support us moving forward with these next steps as outlined?
Thank you, Janine. And as you know, retail has been near and dear to my heart since I think I first got on council, just with even expanding our staff. And I think you guys have done a great job over the last few years in terms of certainly meeting with every ward council member to identify their needs, their market, what exists and where the gaps are. So this next phase of being able to then also look at our incentives and how do we attract and retain retail where it makes sense with different programs, I think is wonderful. I just want to tee up that, of course, I have my resolution coming at the next meeting, council meeting. we weren't able to get it in time for the PED meeting, but it is basically to support the retail strategy and then the targeted engagement for implementation. So again, that stakeholder engagement. So that will be coming to council as well, I think on Monday. So any questions, Councilmember Gardner?
Yeah, I do have a couple. So I guess the first one has to do with the types of retail that you're going to be targeting with this, and maybe that's more of the retail strategy document question. But you know, as I have beat the drum consistently, you know, we need to look at diversifying into more experiences, services, away from traditional shopping. You know, you mentioned Lucky Strike, but there was also two other large spaces at Southlands that were filled with experience as well, the pickleball place and the bounce place, whatever it's called, or
Slick
the slide
City.
place, I'm sorry.
Slick City, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Nordstrom Rack is fine. As Councilmember Bergan knows, I'll probably never step foot in there.
But
And
your daughters will.
well, if I let them. But that's beside the point. I think the point is that you know, a lot of shopping for clothes and other things has transitioned online, and so I think we're going to have to rethink those spaces. I think that's demonstrated in when we see what has moved into those vacant spaces. It has not been more shopping. It's been services, or experiences or entertainment. And so I guess I'm just curious, is that part of, you know, this program that you're developing? Is that in part of the retail strategy? Because I'll just say, if that's not a key component of the retail strategy, I'm not going to support it, because traditional shopping is dead. And so I'm just curious kind of what that looks like in the context of the program that you presented today.
You are spot on with why we want to revise the large anchor tenant program, because with those spaces being filled with the pickleball and the Councilmember Bergen, you said the name of the bounce place, while those don't themselves generate a lot of retail sales tax, they generate foot traffic. So absolutely, the retail strategy is geared at getting the right mix. And that might vary from center to center. You have those uses now in Ward 6. That might be enough there. How do we look at replicating that in centers in the other wards? Ward 2 is also very different because we want to make sure that we're holding the line to get enough retail to serve the community members' needs. So it's looking at the right mix, holding the line where we need to. The one thing I do not want to see is, I understand when a lot of these master plans, especially Ward 2, were developed, they promised the moon and the stars on retail and commercial use. It has changed. That might not be realistic. How much do we need? So working with developers to make sure we have the space for what we do need. People still, I think grocery stores, we need to ensure we have those, but retail being restaurants as well. People still,
exactly.
you know, I've heard from many council members, we want a quality steak restaurant within the city. Having the types of retail restaurants and entertainment in each ward that meets the community members' needs. But what we also want to make sure we're doing is attracting from outside the community. And I think, again, you're spot on that some of that entertainment will help be the draw from outside the community, and then having that mix. So you might have your kid at the bounce house, and then your wife's going to Nordstrom Rack, and you're going to have a beer at a nearby brew pub.
Yeah. And I'll just add on to that. I mean,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think maybe the word retail kind of is giving the wrong impression, because we have always talked about restaurants, entertainment, and, you know, the traditional, what you think of a store for people to purchase things. So it does encompass all of that. And certainly you know, Nordstrom Rack actually is the reason why Lucky Strike came in. The two were really one package. So one helped the other. So I certainly understand where you're coming from. Like, it's not just, you know, stores where you buy things. It's all encompassing.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I think there has been somewhat of a shift from the city in terms of thinking of retail as other than just shopping. But I do think there is a lot of that kind of outdated mindset. And you know, I could point to examples of why I say that. I think that's slowly shifted over time. I don't think it's shifted as quick as the market has. But yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, what you're describing, Janine, is the same concept that I've had in mind with the entertainment conversation, right? Some kind of venue where, you know, if I come to the venue, I want to go to somewhere afterwards to have a drink or to have dessert or to have dinner or whatever. And it's the same idea. Yeah, the you know, Lucky Strike itself or Slick City might not generate a lot of tax revenue, but if I go there, I might go out to dinner afterwards or things like that. And so I just want to make sure that we are not kind of hanging on to outdated retail thoughts. And then I guess my next question has to do with the safety and security program specifically. I sponsored that originally, and I'll just point out it was not just for Colfax. We dedicated $500,000 of it to Colfax, but I think the total program was $2 or $3 million. But in that program, we required the businesses to complete a SEPTED study. And I know your slide mentioned SEPTED, but it sounds like they can do other upgrades, maybe outside of what we think would improve the security. Or can you just maybe talk about that a little bit more, just so I can understand that?
There's a number. SEPTED is a huge factor in the exterior, making sure there's no places for people to hide for the sight lines, but there may be interior things. And this is where the strategy is not only identifying programs where we may have a role, whether it's grants, whether, you know, if they need security cameras, but building in the conversations, and a lot of it's in my head right now, which is sometimes scary. I am drafting it out, but they may need to hire more security officers because we cannot have a police presence at every one of our hundreds of retail centers. So working out the partnerships, and that's where we really need the conversations throughout the city. I mentioned the one in Ward 4 where we worked with some retailers and property owners on the SEPTED. But it's that menu of options that need to be employed, some which we can impact, some which will need property owners to step up and the individual tenants to step up.
Okay. Yeah, and I think just what I'm getting, and I'm not necessarily advocating for requiring a SEPTED study. I guess I just want to make sure that if we're calling it, you know, safety and security, that the upgrades or updates that happen using that grant program address safety and security. So, you know, if there's other ways to ensure that, then, you know, that's fine with me. Like I said, when we did the the prior program, we used the SEPTED study as kind of the blessing for the various upgrades that they made. And then my last question, and actually you just kind of alluded to it. So I was at a store in Corner Star on Sunday, and there were two Aurora police officers just kind of, I don't know, were they there as security? They were standing at the front, just kind of watching. Is that something that we've implemented? Is that something APD's implemented? I'm just curious because I haven't really seen that at the store that I was at before. And so it just kind of surprised me. And so I wanted to ask about it in the context of kind of our overall retail.
I believe that some officers, when off duty, do work as security throughout the city, retail centers and the like. I can look more into that, or Laura or Bob, very briefly, if you know more about that.
Councilmember Gardner, we can follow up with APD and find out if any practices have changed on that front.
Okay.
And I'll just add, we do have PAR officers that work at the Aurora Town Center and then also Southlands. So possibly I would assumed Cornerstone as well.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I'm just going to add, the resolution coming forward does talk about the collaboration that will be had with developers and the industry partners and commercial brokers, real estate professionals, to identify like what they're seeing in the market as well. So I think all that information is going to help us form a really good strategy moving forward.
And if I may, very briefly, Councilmember Bergan, looking forward to that resolution coming forward. But also we are starting interviews next week for the business development manager, who big part of their portfolio is this. And one of the things that's very important to me, the team can laugh at me, but one of my favorite words is innovation. We need to keep innovating. We need to keep up with the times, and if we can, stay ahead of it.
Exactly. All right. Thank you. I know we're running a bit short on time because we have gas station buffers and it shows estimated time of 30 minutes. I don't know if they can talk super fast. And I guess it's Lena.
Yes, Councilmember Bergan, I will tee up the group on this one. So we've received several questions and concerns from council members regarding gas stations and associated buffers and restrictions. And so we are bringing this forward as staff today to seek direction from council as to how you would like to proceed in regards to any changes to our gas station restrictions in the UDO. So Marissa Noble is here to walk you through the current UDO and some benchmarking that we've done. And then we have a few questions to ask you today to seek direction.
Hi, committee. Good morning. My name is Marissa Noble. I'm a GIS Planner 3 in the long-range planning side of the Planning and Business Development Department. Thank you so much for your time today. I just have a few slides, so I'll do it pretty quickly. I know I'm the last of the agenda, so I won't take up too much of your time. But I'm here today to talk mostly about gas station buffers. A lot of it is just informational with, yes, some direction-seeking questions at the end. Okay, so currently, the City of Aurora does observe some regulations according to the UDO. Those regulations include that new gas stations cannot be within 500 feet of an adult or child daycare center, a hospital, an elementary school, or a secondary school, or a nursing or group home. New stations can also not be placed within 500 feet of an intersection if two of the corners are already auto-related businesses. And an auto-related business includes car rentals, body shops, car repairs, and car washes. Gas stations are permitted in industrial zoning districts and permitted with a conditional use in mixed-use zoning districts. So I just have a few slides for some examples from other jurisdictions within the past couple of years. These are regulations that have just kind of happened in the metro area. I'll call on 3 of them. The first one is Louisville. So in March of 2023, they put a cap of 6 gas stations throughout the city. At the time, they had 5, with a 6th one going through the approval process. They did leave a window open for the possibility of a 7th, only if it's a part of a new large retail center and only if it's 1,000 feet away from an existing station. And this 1,000-foot rule would also apply if a current gas station were to close and a new one open up somewhere else. Also, if an existing gas station wants to remodel, they'd have to make 20% of their available pumps be EV chargers. So that's just one example of what Louisville, a close-ish neighbor, has done in the past couple of years. My next example is Lakewood. So in January of 2025, they passed these restrictions on new gas stations. So it can't be within half of a mile of a current existing station. They're only permitted within specific zoning districts and must be at least 1/5 of a mile or 1,056 feet away from residential zoning districts. A new station will also need at least 3 EV chargers. So my third and final example, oops, there we go, is Denver. So most recently in February 2025, they stated that a gas station cannot be within a quarter mile of an existing gas station or a light rail station, and it can't be within 300 feet of a low intensity residential zone district. They did leave, a little allowance for new gas stations so they can avoid these regulations if they offer commercial space to provide home goods, groceries, any sort of particular commercial sale. Okay, so now I have just a couple of maps. These are my visual examples. So what we're looking at here is the city of Aurora. We're a little zoomed in, but you can see the 225 on the left and E470 on the right. The red is the zone districts where gas stations are not permitted. The yellow is the zone districts where gas stations are permitted with a conditional use. And the green is zone districts where gas stations are permitted. So you can see the little pump symbol, that's where our current gas stations are located. And the blue circle around those is what a quarter-mile buffer would look like. My second map is the same thing with the red being non-permitted, yellow is conditional use, and green is permitted with our current gas stations and where they're located. But the purple buffer now is a half-mile buffer. So this kind of gives us visually what it would look like, if we were to kind of look at a quarter-mile or half-mile buffer. Okay, my last slide. So I just want to end with some questions for council. So does council want to consider additional restrictions on gas stations? If yes, which buffer is most desirable? A quarter mile, a half mile, or a third option? Should the buffer be waived or reduced for a gas station that includes semi-truck parking in industrial zoning districts? And should the design standards for gas stations in the UDO be changed? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can I ask, did this come from staff or from a council member? Because I remember there was some discussions at a last council, not the last council meeting, but a few meetings ago.
Yes, Councilmember Bergan, because we have heard questions, this is coming from staff today to initiate the conversation. And then the ask would be to move forward to study session for conversation with the full council.
Okay. I mean, I understand, I hear from constituents a lot about there are too many gas stations, but in terms of property rights, obviously, this is intended for new gas stations coming in?
Yes.
Okay. I honestly feel like maybe some more studies need to be done, but Councilmember Gardner, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I'm not supportive of it. I'm sure the new council will be. But I don't think the examples that were given, for example, and I'm not really sure Louisville is an apples to apples comparison when we're talking about a city that is limiting it to 7 gas stations or 6 or whatever the number was. I mean, I drive by 7 gas stations, in 5 minutes in Aurora. So, and I'm not really sure that I am interested in what Denver or Lakewood did either at all. And so, yeah, I don't, unless somebody wants to bring forward an ordinance, I'm not really interested in spending any more time on it.
Yeah, I guess I think it's a little bit premature. I mean, again, I understand that like we don't necessarily want a whole concentration of gas stations, but I don't know. I guess I would not be comfortable moving it forward either.
Can I ask one more question, Councilmember Bergen?
Yeah, go ahead.
So from looking at the map that I saw, it would appear that, I don't know, I'm going to pick a number, 90% of the city, maybe more, already does not allow a gas station. I mean, that's a guess, but I mean, looking at the amount of red that was on that map, it's about, 90% of the city, right?
Yeah, Marissa, if you can go back to say the half-mile buffer, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'm not really sure the solution that we're like, what is the problem that we are looking for a solution for if already 90% of the city doesn't allow a gas station? I'm not, I guess I'm not sure what the question is then. Are we saying we want to have it be even greater than 90% of the city not allowing a gas station?
I think that's the question, Councilmember Gardner, is there a desire to make a change to
Okay.
the buffer? Yeah.
There's not for me, but I'm sure the new council will want to do that.
Yeah, there's not for me at this time. I think I would need to know more what the actual, problem is.
Okay. I think we got the direction we needed. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Jen.
much. Appreciate that. So we will not move this forward, and we'll proceed with current restrictions in our UDO.
Okay, very good. So we have a few minutes left. I don't think we have any reports from any of the outside groups, organizations, unless somebody is on and has a report they'd like to make quickly. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So next meeting, we have it tentatively scheduled for December 10th. I know in the past we try not to have a December meeting. Laura or Janine, do you foresee a need for an agenda item to come forward in December?
No, we planned for this meeting to be our last meeting, which was why it was quite a full agenda today.
It was, and you guys did a great job today. Appreciate all the work on everything. And I will just say thank you for the entire year, all the staff that worked on all the different things that came forward to PED. It is always a pleasure for me to chair this committee, and I'm hopeful next year that I will still be able to do so. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.